Truistery Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot. Today, Truistery Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. The late afternoon sky over Brooklyn darkened with barely a whisper of warning. Caitlin Harper, wrapped in a light trench coat and balancing her laptop bag against one shoulder, navigated the slick pavement on her vintage Vespa. She was 25, armed with a master's degree in data analytics and brimming with excitement for her first day at Sunrise Technologies. But ambition often meets its most vivid test in life's most ordinary moments, and a sudden summer squall had just rolled in without fanfare. Within seconds, the drizzle turned into a torrent. Water pooled in the street, turning asphalt into a mirror of storm clouds. Caitlin veered to avoid a deep puddle only to feel her front tire lose traction. Time slowed as she tensed. A heart-stopping slide across the wet pavement. A second later, headlights flared, brilliant and jarring, beneath an enormous black SUV that had halted meters ahead. Instinctively, the driver deployed hazard lights, and the rain-drenched beast hissed to a stop. Caitlin's Vespa toppled. She found herself sprawling, her palms scraping the rough road, her coat plastered to her skin. Before she could gather her wits, a tall figure emerged. He wore a charcoal raincoat, crisply tailored, and a dark baseball cap. Water dripped from the brim, washing down the collar. Without hesitation, he knelt, gripping her upper arms, lifting her gently to her feet. The rain pelted both of them, soaking through fabric in seconds. "Hey, are you okay?" His voice was calm but urgent, with an accent that hinted at New England roots. Caitlin blinked through the curtain of rain. I think so," she stammered, teeth chattering. Pain radiated from her wrist, and a welt bloomed on her knee. She tucked a damp strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you." He offered a dry handkerchief, folded neatly, from his pocket. Caitlin hesitated, then accepted it, pressing the cloth to her cheek. The softness contrasted shockingly with the hard rain. "I'm Alex Price," he said, voice low enough so only she could hear over the wind. I saw you skid out. That was quite a fall." His brown eyes were steady, examining her without judgment. "Caitlin Harper," she replied, managing a small, grateful smile. "That was embarrassing." He shrugged, brushing rain from his collar. "Happens to the best of us. You need a ride?" He nodded toward the idling SUV. Caitlin's mind whirled. First, the embarrassment of the spill. Then this unexpected connection. And now the strange coincidence. Her unexpected savior was a colleague? Heart-hammering, she nodded. Inside the SUV was surprisingly warm. The driver's seat was lined in leather, and the dash glowed softly with high-end tech. He handed her a spare poncho from the back seat, a branded Sunrise umbrella logo on the chest pocket. "I keep these in every vehicle," Alex said, voice measured. "I'd hate to see you catch pneumonia on your first day." She chuckled, draping the poncho over her head. "I appreciate it." She shivered as he eased back onto the street. The wipers swished in a steady rhythm, matching her racing heartbeat. They crossed the Manhattan Bridge, city lights refracting through raindrops like scattered diamonds. Caitlin stared at the skyline, curly hair flattened by the hood. The scene might have been cinematic, if not for the raw chill in her bones. Alex noticed her gaze. "You've never ridden the Vespa in a storm before?" She shook her head. "Worst idea of my life, until perhaps this one." He offered a sympathetic half-smile. "Welcome to New York." They pulled off onto 5th Avenue and then onto 45th Street. Rain slicked the pavement so cars slowed and umbrellas bobbed along sidewalks. Past billboards, neon signs, and that familiar yellow taxi blur, the Sunrise Technologies tower rose, glass facade gleaming despite the gloom. "Here we are," Alex said, parking under the building's awning. He cut the engine. "Office security is just inside. I can escort you around." Caitlin nodded, heart thudding. Thank you, Alex. He stepped out first, holding an umbrella overhead so she could stay as dry as possible. The wind gusted, but together they hurried into the glass lobby. Security guards glanced up as they passed. Alex flashed an ID badge. "Evening, Manny," he greeted the guard. "Meet Caitlin, our new data analyst." The guard nodded, offering a polite smile and a towel. "Welcome to Sunrise." Alex guided Caitlin to the elevators. They rode up in silence, the doors closing on the reflection of two wet silhouettes. On the 32nd floor, fluorescent lights illuminated an open-plan office. Desks flickered with monitors. A Friday night shift hummed with quiet productivity. Colleagues greeted Alex warmly as he led Caitlin past workstations. "You're early," one coworker teased. "Riding out the storm?" He grinned. "Just doing my civic duty." Then he turned to Caitlin. "Here we are, your desk right next to mine." She swallowed. "Next to my hero." He offered a hand to help steady her as she settled into her chair. The tiled ceiling and whiteboards covered in charts looked stark. She placed her laptop bag on the floor and unzipped it. Alex handed her a steaming mug of coffee, black, with a single sugar packet. "Figured you could use something warm." Caitlin accepted it, warmth flooding her fingers. She saw him glance at his watch. "I'll be in the morning meeting, but I'll check in." She looked up, uncertainty mixed with gratitude. "I really owe you one." He inclined his head, softening. "Just watch the weather forecasts." Then he stepped away, merging into cubicles and flickering screens. Once he was gone, Caitlin exhaled, pressing her palms to her temples. Her first day on the job had become more than orientation. It was an unexpected collision of fate. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but now inside, Caitlin felt an unexpected spark, as if an electric current had passed through her. The data dashboards she was about to study blurred for a moment, replaced by the image of Alex's steady gaze and that quiet offer of help. She raised her mug to her lips, savoring coffee and the knowledge that sometimes the most ordinary storm can usher in the most extraordinary beginnings. Caitlin pressed the steam-spattered glass door of Sunrise Technologies and stepped into the hushed hum of the open-plan office. The building's atrium ceiling soared overhead, rows of LED panels casting a cool, clinical glow over sleek desks and gleaming monitors. Rain streaked down the windows overlooking Fifth Avenue, but inside, everything felt impossibly still until the weight of 1,000 soft keystrokes and muted conversations began to settle around her. She took a tentative step forward, scanning the sea of cubicles. Around her, analysts and engineers were bent over dual-screen setups, data visualizations dancing across Excel spreadsheets and proprietary software. Overhead, a digital ticker scrolled CEO announcements and key performance indicators. It felt like stepping into the nerve center of a living organism, each desk a vital organ, each monitor a lifeline. A gentle tap on her shoulder made her start. She turned to see Nisha Patel, her immediate neighbor, and the office's unofficial welcome committee. Nisha was in her early 30s, wearing a bold patterned scarf and a confident smile. "Hey, you must be Caitlin," she said, extending a hand. Her voice was warm, with just a touch of that practiced friendliness New Yorkers reserve for new hires. "I'm Nisha, data modeler on Alex's team. Welcome aboard." Caitlin shook her hand firmly, grateful for the introduction. "Thank you, glad to be here." She offered a tentative smile, tucking a damp strand of hair behind her ear. "This place is impressive." Nisha chuckled. "You'll get used to it. We crunch numbers here for Sunrise stock predictions and startup valuations. Afternoon storms are a nice backdrop, but we'd rather see sunshine on our dashboards." She glanced down at Caitlin's ID badge, freshly printed with her photo and the title Data Analyst, and gave an approving nod. "Your desk is right here. Let me show you the ropes." They navigated through narrow aisles between desks. Caitlin's heart thumped as she drew closer to the cubicle labeled Price, Project Lead. Alex's nameplate gleamed in polished metal. She swallowed. Recognition flickered in several coworkers' eyes as they glanced her way. "Don't mind them," Nisha whispered, nodding toward a trio leaning against a partition. Whispering and then smirking. "Office gossip reaches warp speed here. They'll be talking about your wet arrival for weeks." Caitlin laughed softly. "I guess I brought the storm inside with me." They reached the cubicle. An ergonomically designed chair sat behind a curved desk, flanked by 2 high-end monitors and an array of post-it notes tiled along a whiteboard. A succulent plant offered a touch of green.
Tajda Nisa annonsjet.
"This is you. Your first priority is the Q3 commodity spread analysis. The morning stand-up starts in 15. She handed Caitlin a stack of orientation materials, the employee handbook, a streamlined org chart, and a printed agenda for the next week. "Thanks," Caitlin said, arranging her belongings. Then she paused. "Where's Alex?" Nisha's eyes brightened. "Oh, good timing. He's coming back from the executive kitchen.
Here.
Helps himself to that artisanal cold brew when he thinks no one's watching." She nudged toward a narrow corridor leading to a sleek coffee bar stocked with stainless steel urns and barley snacks. As Caitlin stood to follow, her phone buzzed with a calendar reminder. Morning stand-up with Price Team, 6:30 p.m. She frowned. Stand-ups on a Friday evening seemed aggressive, but sunrise ran on global markets, so late-day huddles made sense. She crossed the aisle to the coffee bar. The aroma of roasted beans mingled with recycled air. Balancing her materials in one arm, she poured herself a glass of iced cold brew. Just then, Alex appeared through the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, trench coat dripping onto a tile mat. His dark hair was damp, but flawless, his navy blue suit unruffled. Their eyes met. Time once more slowed. In the pale kitchen light, Caitlin saw him more clearly than ever. Poised posture, square jaw, crisp lines of his tailored jacket. Alex froze for a heartbeat, coffee mug halfway to his lips. Then he blinked, as if emerging from a daze. "Caitlin." His voice held genuine surprise. She offered a shaky smile.
"Alex."
"Hey." He walked across the room in measured steps. "You've settled in already?" He nodded toward the cubicle. "That was fast. I had a great guide." She raised her cold brew in salute. "Thanks for everything earlier." He tucked his mug down. Even his casual posture radiated control. "No problem. Let's get to the stand-up." He motioned down a hallway. "We're on time." Their footsteps echoed as they left the kitchen. Co-workers glanced up. Recognizing him as project lead, some nodded respectfully. Caitlin kept pace, adrenaline spiking. They arrived at a glass-walled conference room labeled Project Helios. Inside, a dozen chairs circled a polished oak table. A large monitor displayed a countdown clock and bullet points. 1. Metrics overview. 2. Data pipeline. 3. Q3 risk factors. 4. Action items. Alex took up a seat at the head. Caitlin sat to his left, heart pounding so loudly she wondered if anyone else heard it. Silence reigned for a moment. Then he tapped the screen, and the meeting commenced. As Alex led the group through a crisp, confident walkthrough, highlighting key data discrepancies, marking spikes in energy sector trades, and delegating tasks, Caitlin watched him in action. His voice was calm, authoritative, his gestures precise. He clearly commanded respect. Co-workers followed his cues, interjected insights, or jotted notes. When he turned his head, Caitlin caught the faintest flicker of recognition, then instant professionalism. He addressed her directly. "Caitlin, I've reviewed your resume. Your expertise in time series forecasting will be invaluable for this risk assessment module. Could you prepare a preliminary model by Monday morning?" Caught off guard but determined, she nodded. "Absolutely. I'll send you an outline before the weekend." He inclined his head, satisfied. "Perfect." Then he pivoted back to the team, seamlessly resuming the agenda. After 20 minutes, the meeting wrapped up. Papers were gathered, laptops closed. As her colleagues drifted away, Caitlin lingered, cheeks still warm from the intensity. Alex approached. "Any questions?" She shook her head. No, that covered everything. Her voice was steadier than she felt. Thanks for the introduction. He offered a genuine smile, crisp and surprising. Welcome to Team Helios. We're glad you're here. He paused as if considering something. I know this wasn't exactly how you planned your first day. Caitlin chuckled softly. No, but definitely memorable. He let out a quiet laugh. Memorable is good. Then he slipped on his coat, checking his phone. I have one more thing. This week, I'll send you the archive logs from Harper Enterprises. It'll help with the analysis. Her heart skipped. Thank you. I appreciate it. He nodded and headed for the door. See you Monday, dry and on time. She watched him leave. The conference room door closing with a soft click. Alone, Caitlin exhaled a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. The tension in her shoulders eased. Sunrise Technologies' fluorescent lights seemed less imposing now, more like a stage set for an adventure she was finally ready to embrace. Outside, rain still tapped the glass, reminding her that life rarely unfolds according to plan. But within these walls, she sensed the stirrings of something extraordinary, a partnership of minds, a spark of mutual respect, and the promise of unraveling mysteries together. As she gathered her briefcase and headed back to her cubicle, Caitlin knew her first day had been far more than orientation. It had been a reunion 4 years in the making, and the opening chapter of a story she was only beginning to write. Friday evening, and the rain that had drenched Manhattan all day had finally slowed to a steady mist. Caitlin slipped her damp trench coat off her shoulders as she entered her apartment lobby in Williamsburg. She barely registered the clack of her high heels on polished tile. Her mind was racing with thoughts of the weekend ahead. She fished her phone from her purse. A message from Michelle. Michelle. Hey girl, reminder. Blind date tonight at 8 p.m. sharp. The place is Hillside Bistro, 32 Elm Street. Can't bail again. My reputation as a matchmaker is on the line. Face blowing a kiss. Caitlin groaned. She knew Michelle meant well, but after the morning's whirlwind, her near accident, the awkward office reunion with Alex, she just wanted to unwind with a glass of wine on her couch. Instead, she had agreed, half-heartedly, to Michelle's insistence. You need to get out there. Find someone new. Live a little. She sent a quick reply. On my way. By 7:45 p.m., Caitlin was seated at a corner table under warm Edison bulbs inside Hillside Bistro, an upscale but cozy spot favored by tech professionals winding down after work. She tugged at her necklace, an old gift from her grandmother, and gazed at the entrance, tension knotting her stomach. At 8 p.m. on the dot, the door swung open. Caitlin's eyes lifted, ready to meet the stranger Michelle had lined up. But instead of a smiling face, she saw Alex Price, dripping wet, standing beneath the restaurant awning, scanning the interior with a bemused expression. Her breath caught. She closed her eyes, convinced her mind was playing tricks. But when she opened them, there he was, shaking rainwater from his cuffs and dripping onto the tile floor. Alex, she whispered. He blinked, clearly as surprised as she was. Good evening, Caitlin. His voice wavered slightly, an unusual break in his usual composure. A waiter in a crisp tuxedo approached. Table for two? Alex glanced at Caitlin, who shrugged helplessly. Yes, please. They followed the waiter through softly lit booths toward the back. Caitlin's heart pounded. This was meant to be a blind date, literally a stranger arranged by her friend. Yet here stood the last person she expected. When they settled into a plush banquette, Caitlin cleared her throat. This is awkward. He ran a hand through his hair, rain matting the strands. Michelle texted me, asked me to stand in for someone else who bailed. Thought it was a joke. She studied him, surprise giving way to reluctant laughter. I suppose the universe has a sense of humor. He offered a lopsided grin. Apparently. I'm sorry. I can leave if you'd prefer a stranger. She shook her head, folding her arms.
No.
If you're here, might as well order. I've been looking forward to their braised short rib. Alex glanced at the menu on the table. Sounds good. I'm Alex. By the way, no blind date title. She extended her hand.
Caitlin.
No, you're officially my blind date. A server appeared with 2 glasses of Merlot. Alex gave Caitlin a tentative nod, lifting his glass. To unexpected company. She clinked her glass with his. To surviving the storm. They sipped quietly as raindrops rolled down the windows behind them. The low hum of conversation at neighboring tables felt miles away. Caitlin studied Alex. The same crisp features, the same calm eyes, but something about this setting, intimate and detached from corporate urgency, softened his edges. I never expected to see you here, she admitted. He smiled wryly. I never planned to be Michelle's stand-in for a blind date. He paused, swirling the wine. I was going to run an errand after work, deliver some documents. Then she called. I figured. Why not? You might need a friendly face. She raised an eyebrow. A friendly face or a less awkward face? Both, he said with a small laugh. Look, Caitlin, about this morning. I didn't mean to. She shook her head. You saved me. Definitely no apologies there. She took another sip. So, tell me, outside of being my hero and surprise colleague, what do you do for fun? He chuckled. Fun sounds so casual. I like photography, street photography. Capturing unexpected moments in New York. He leaned back, gaze drifting to the window. Sunrises over the East River are my favorite, but I'll settle for capturing city life at any hour. That's actually really cool. Caitlin felt the conversation lightening. I have a framed street shot above my sofa, Coney Island at dawn. Maybe you can show me sometime. He tucked his menu aside. Her pulse skipped. Maybe I will. They spent the next 30 minutes sampling Hillside's seasonal small plates, roasted Brussels sprouts with balsamic glaze, ahi tuna tartare, and the famed braised short rib with truffle mashed potatoes. Each dish offered a new chance to talk about favorite New York neighborhoods, Williamsburg for her, the West Village for him. About niche hobbies, her pottery classes, his midnight photo shoots, and about the little frustrations and fleeting triumphs of urban life. Between courses, Caitlin felt the tension from earlier in the day melting away. Alex laughed when she revealed her most embarrassing cooking failure, a charred kale incident that set off her smoke alarm. She bantered gently when he confessed his only guilty pleasure, binge-watching classic 80s sci-fi movies on Netflix. At one point, a live jazz trio began playing in the corner. The saxophonist's smooth notes floated overhead. Alex nodded toward the stage. Dance, he asked, half-smirked. She hesitated. Heels and trench coat weren't ideal for dancing, but the invitation was magnetic. Sure. They rose, weaving between tables. Music pulsed through the cozy space as they took to the small dance floor. Alex's hand pressed gently against the small of her back. She placed her hand on his shoulder. They moved slowly at first, matching the mellow tempo. Caitlin's laughter came easily as he attempted a playful spin that sent her skirt fluttering. When the song ended, applause rippled around the room. Caitlin's cheeks were flushed, not from physical exertion, but from a thrilling rush of connection. They returned to their table, breathless. Alex tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. That was fun. Best blind date ever, she replied, raising her glass one more time. As dessert menus arrived, chocolate lava cake and creme brulee, Alex's phone buzzed. He glanced at it apologetically. Work call. He tapped his lip. I should take this. She nodded, understanding. Professional duty called. He stepped a few feet away, leaning against the wall as he spoke crisply into the phone. Caitlin watched him out of the corner of her eye, poised, efficient, commanding respect even in a brief hallway conversation. When he returned, he found her stirring her coffee. Everything okay?
He nodded.
2 minor updates. Nothing I can't handle. He sat down. I'm sorry to cut our night short. She shook her head. Not at all. I actually had a great time. He studied her face.
Me too.
Really? They left Hillside Bistro together, emerging into a damp world smeared in city lights. The rain had eased to a drizzle, steam rising from grates and subway vents. Alex shielded her with the oversized poncho from the morning. "Thanks for tonight," Caitlin said softly as they reached the curb. He met her gaze. "Thank you for being a great sport." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket. "Caitlin, maybe this weekend you'd like to?" He trailed off, unsure how to phrase it. She smiled. "Help you pick the perfect angle for a sunrise photo shoot by the river?"
He laughed. "Exactly that."
She looked up at the glowing skyline. "I'd love to." They stood there in the soft glow of a street lamp, the buzz of distant traffic blending with the lull of the receding storm. Then Alex closed the small distance between them and pressed a quick, respectful kiss to her cheek.
"Good night," he said.
"Good night," she replied, her smile lingering as he slipped into a waiting car and it pulled away. Caitlin watched until it turned the corner, then looked up at the sky. The clouds had parted slightly, revealing the first sliver of moonlight. Tonight's blind date had been anything but ordinary, and unexpectedly, it had been exactly what she needed. As she walked home under the gentle drizzle, Caitlin felt a new kind of anticipation, not just about her career or her next project at Sunrise Technologies, but about where this surprising connection with Alex Price might lead. For the first time in a long while, she was grateful for rainstorms, blind dates, and the unpredictable joys of life in New York City. 2 mornings later, the air in the Sunrise Technologies office felt charged, as if the city itself were waiting for something to break.
Caitlin said a head disk.
Reviewing the code she'd quickly drafted for the Q3 risk assessment module. But her mind kept drifting back to the old email from Alex. "Price. I'm uploading the archived executive logs from Harper Enterprises. See Section 7B, Financial Anomalies, starting 2008. Should give you a head start." She clicked through the internal document repository, an austere interface that stored everything from board meeting minutes to off-the-books attachments. Soon, a folder labeled Harper Archives Legacy appeared. Within it lay scanned PDFs of aged balance sheets, handwritten memos, and, most intriguingly, a trove of CSV exports from their old trading platform. Caitlin downloaded the files to a secure sandbox environment and opened a master spreadsheet titled HP_Q2_2008_ reconciled. The numbers were staggering. Quarterly losses mounting from $5 million to $20 million, followed by an abrupt spike in debt, an 800% surge over 6 months. Notes in the right-hand column read, "Review aggressive hedging strategies and possible unauthorized collateral swap." Her pulse quickened. These were the breadcrumbs. The key was finding who'd authorized what and when. She sent Alex a message. "Can you stand by for a few minutes? I'm tracing some anomalies in the debt schedules. Looks like someone backdated entries in late 2008. Within moments, his reply popped up. "On my way. Conference room in 5 minutes?" They met in the glass-walled war room, sunlight slanting through the blinds and casting slatted patterns on the table. Alex busied himself with connecting his laptop to the projector, and Caitlin arranged the spreadsheets on the screen. "See this?" she said, zooming in on a column labeled Debt Swap Confirmation. On October 14th, the board minutes show approval for $10 million in asset-backed notes. But look at the timestamp on the electronic ledger, October 9th, 5 days earlier. There's no record of a board meeting that day. These entries were backfilled. He tapped the table thoughtfully. "That's odd. If someone manipulated the date, it means they could have hidden a major financial maneuver from shareholders and regulators." He clicked through archived emails. The associated message chains were incomplete, some threads missing. "Exactly." Caitlin shrugged off her blazer and leaned closer. "I cross-referenced the email metadata sourced from a legacy Outlook server. The attachments for that transaction were sent from an address belonging to Gregory Price." She hesitated, lowering her voice. "Your grandfather." Alex's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I know. But I need to see more proof before jumping to conclusions." She swiveled to another folder, pulling up HP_merger_2009_summary. "Here, after the swap, net assets plummet. and a mysterious $5 million vendor payment is made to a shell company called Stonebridge Capital. I can't trace Stonebridge beyond a P.O. box in Wilmington, Delaware. He frowned. I'll run that address through our legal database. Stonebridge shouldn't exist without a transparent homepage. While he worked, Caitlin flagged a line in the spreadsheet. Collateral asset. Speculative industrial loans. She ran a quick Google search. These were commercial mortgages bundled by a little-known trustee firm. We can subpoena their filings, maybe see if any Form 8K or SEC disclosure exists. Alex clicked through his secure phone. I'm making calls. Meanwhile, you should check the old phone logs from Harper's CFO, Walter Martin. He was whistleblowing to compliance shortly before everything fell apart. Caitlin's eyes lit up. I'll pull the compliance inbox. Should be archived under HP_compliance_records_2008. Over the next hour, they worked methodically.
1.
Recovered an Excel macro that generated a summarized balance sheet, revealing an error message overwritten by a second macro, evidence someone deliberately concealed an out-of-balance cell.
2.
Matched bank account transfers from Harper's Chase business account to intermediary accounts before the funds were routed offshore.
3.
Cross-checked SEC filings against local Virginia corporate registry documents, unearthing discrepancies in directorship records at Harper Enterprises. By midday, they had assembled a coherent timeline. June 2008, Harper approves risky mortgage-backed derivatives. August 2008, Gregory Price injects $20 million in high-interest debt, secretly authorized a collateral swap. October 9, 2008, backdated journal entries record the debt swap, hiding it from the August board meeting. November 2008, $5 million transferred to Stonebridge Capital, then dispersed offshore. December 2008, CFO Walter Martin attempts to file a formal whistleblower complaint shortly afterward. Press releases blame market conditions for insolvency. January 2009, Harper Enterprises declares bankruptcy. Martin resigns and vanishes from public view. They expected to control the narrative. Alex mused. By the time the SEC started asking questions, the money was already gone. Caitlin nodded, adrenaline pulsing. Must find CFO Martin's complaint email. If we can retrieve that before deletion, it'll nail down their collusion. Alex tapped a folder labeled HP_compliance_records_2008. Got it.
Looks like he sent a
doc attachment titled HP_whistleblower_July 08. Docs to compliance at harperm.com. He double-clicked, but the file was corrupted. Caitlin frowned. That's deliberate. She launched a hex editor tool. Scrolling through raw binary, snippets of text appeared. Irregular collateral, unauthorized swap, board documentation absent, request for external audit. He flagged it all, Caitlin whispered. She exported the fragments to a recovered document format. The parser yielded a partial Word document, enough to show Martin's signature block and a date, July 22, 2008. Alex let out a low whistle. This is gold. He typed a quick email to their in-house legal counsel, attaching the recovered DOC and demanding immediate preservation. Within minutes, both Caitlin and Alex received a secure channel acknowledgement from counsel. They would file an emergency litigation hold to prevent any destruction of relevant records. That evening, after securing key evidence, Alex insisted on walking Caitlin to the subway. Stepping into the crisp air, they navigated through the wet streets of Manhattan, bright neon reflecting off puddles. You know, Alex said, I never thanked you properly for diving in like this. She shrugged, bundling her coat tighter. I'm no hero, but someone needs to sort out the truth. My father, Walter Martin, died believing his warnings were ignored. She glanced at Alex. CFO Martin. His gaze softened. He was a good man. She looked away, voice hushed.
He was.
And he paid the price. Alex stopped under a flickering street lamp. We'll fix that. I'll stand by you every step of the way. Her heart fluttered at his sincerity. Thanks, Alex. He opened his umbrella, straightening the handle. Get home safe. She boarded the train, eyes on the polished steel doors sliding shut. In the reflection, she saw Alex's steady frame fade into the station's glow. Back at her apartment in Brooklyn, Caitlin laid out printed charts across her kitchen table, graphs of asset valuations, red flags marking suspicious transactions, timestamps lining the margins like bullet points in a confession. She sipped chamomile tea, exhausted but exhilarated. The phone rang, her apartment number buzzing. It was Alex. Price. I just got off the phone with the Delaware Council. Stonebridge Capital? Not registered. The P.O. box you found is a mail drop. We'll hand this to the SEC Monday. Caitlin exhaled. That's good. And the recovered whistleblower doc. Price. Sent to compliance. They're drafting the SEC submission as we speak. She closed her eyes. I can't believe how close this is. Price. Get some rest. We've got an avalanche of paperwork ahead. She smiled, despite the fatigue. Thank you for everything. Price. Sleep well, Caitlin.
See you Monday.
As she set down the receiver, her apartment felt too small, witness to a monumental task that was only just beginning. Yesterday's blind date had blossomed into a partnership of purpose. Today's forensic deep dive had exposed betrayal at the highest levels. Tomorrow, they would bring the evidence to light. And beyond tomorrow, Caitlin knew the chase for justice would continue. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. The ghosts of Harper Enterprises' ruined legacy had been exhumed, and with them, the promise of a reckoning. The week following the Helios project's seismic revelations unfolded with relentless pace. By Thursday evening, Caitlin Harper was running late on a final round of post-market data checks at Sunrise Technologies. She was alone on the 32nd floor when the office lights flickered, a scheduled power saver mode, and all non-essential electronics shut down. Caitlin moved swiftly to save her work. Her screens glowed the sole illumination in the hushed cubicle farm. Outside, the city's hum was distant, muted by double-paned windows. She gathered her laptop bag and passed empty desks, still strewn with half-eaten dinners and ranking formula printouts. Her badge beeped at the security turnstile. The lower lobby was deserted. She stepped into the elevator and pressed L for lobby. On the way down, her phone buzzed with a text from Alex Price. Alex, need you first thing tomorrow. Urgent follow-up on trustee docs. Sorry for late notice. She typed back. Caitlin, on it. I'll be in at 7 a.m. The elevator dinged. She exited into a deserted lobby, glass doors looming. As she rounded the corner toward the street, two black SUVs idled silently beneath the marquee. She hesitated. Security was supposed to park in the underground garage. She reached for her phone. A gloved hand clamped over her mouth from behind. An urgent pulse of fear raced through her mind as another arm wrapped around her torso and lifted her clean off her feet. Before she could scream, a cloth soaked in chloroform covered her nose and mouth. Her vision blurred, knees weakened, and the world faded to black. Caitlin came to groggily on a cold concrete floor, ribs aching. The air was dank, metallic with the smell of oil and mildew. She blinked. Poor lighting revealed a vast warehouse interior empty, but for scattered pallets and a few overturned crates. Her hands were bound behind her, her legs, too. She struggled, but the knots were expertly tied. Panic surged. Footsteps echoed. A figure emerged. A tall man in a black ski mask and a tactical jacket. His voice was muffled but deliberate. Welcome back, Miss Harper. You've uncovered too much. Caitlin's mind raced. Who? What do you want? He laughed. I'm just a messenger. Your friend, Mr. Price, believed you'd die protecting those files. Instead, he'll watch you beg for your life. He gestured, and two more masked figures stepped forward, carrying a steel briefcase, her laptop bag. No. Caitlin strained against her bonds. Give that back. Patience, said a second voice. All in good time. They left her under a flickering overhead lamp and disappeared around a stack of crates. Caitlin's breaths came fast. She tasted blood in her mouth. Her cheek must have scraped concrete when she blacked out. Determination rose. She had to escape, notify Alex, secure the evidence. But first, the bindings. Her legs twisted slightly, grinding rope against rough concrete until fibers gave way. By jostling inch by painful inch, she freed one wrist. She worked furiously, tears stinging her eyes, until both hands were loose enough to slip free. A final wrench, and her ankles were liberated. She pushed herself up, steeling her resolve. Back at Sunrise Technologies, Alex's phone rang insistently. It was Marisol Vega. Marisol. Alex, are those trusty files you requested delivered? Alex, they should be on my desk. I can't locate Caitlin. She hasn't checked in, and her last location ping was 8 p.m. outside the building. Silence crackled. She left the office at 8, you say? I'll notify security and the police. Get in touch with her. Her cell might still work. He hung up and punched Caitlin's number. Voicemail. He tried again. Nothing but a distant ring. Panic seized him. He dashed to his car. Adrenaline surging. Caitlin stood and glanced at the warehouse exit. A heavy metal door marked emergency only. She yanked it, but it resisted. She scanned the perimeter. High ceilings, support beams, narrow catwalks overhead. She sprinted across the floor to where crates were stacked, hefting one to brace against the door. It swung open slightly, fueling hope, but a guard's shouted command rang out. Screeching boots approached. Acting fast, Caitlin darted toward a narrow service corridor. She heard the guard plus 2 others pursuing, their torches sweeping. Twisting through a hidden doorway in the wall, she emerged onto a graded catwalk. Below, motor oil reservoirs and ventilation shafts glinted in dim light. She balanced carefully on the graded metal and pulled up her phone. 1 bar of signal. Her pulse thundered. She dialed Alex. Ring, ring. Caitlin, he answered, voice raw. She whispered her location near the Manhattan waterfront, Warehouse 37 West Pier. Alex relayed coordinates to 911, promising to be there in minutes. She spotted a steel ladder leading to a lower level. Below was darkness, but she had no choice. She climbed silently, praying the corroded rungs held. Outside, a cold wind whipped across the pier. Alex, parked illegally on the loading dock with the police arriving behind him, grabbed the officer's radio. I'm with Sunrise Tech. My colleague's been taken. She's near Warehouse 37 West Pier, requesting a tactical unit. The officer nodded and authorized a unit. Alex darted toward a forklift idling nearby. Grabbing the radio mic again, he directed responding officers. Block the exit routes. I'm going in. He raced toward a dim corridor between 2 warehouses. The beam from his phone cut through darkness. Then a voice. Footstep behind a shipping container. He froze, pressed against the wall. 2 masked men stepped into his light, carrying Caitlin's laptop bag and briefcase. One carried a handgun. Alex's heart hammered. Without thinking, he charged. Hey! The gunman spun, finger tightening on the trigger. A shot rang out. Metal ricocheted off a nearby barrel. Alex ducked behind a crate, yelling, Caitlin, are you all right? A harsh whisper replied, Stay back. But it was her voice, weak but alive. Caitlin crouched behind a rusted oil drum, bleeding from a cut on her forehead. She peered into the darkness. Alex's shout was a lifeline. She shouted back, Alex, they're armed. He peered around the crate. How many? He asked the officers on his radio. 2 suspects with weapons inside. I need backup on my position. L6 corridor. In the shadows, 1 kidnapper barked orders. Grab her and let's move. They yanked Caitlin from cover. Alex rounded the corner, barreling toward them. The first kidnapper leveled his gun. Alex charged, tackling his arm upward. The gun fired again. This time, the bullet lodged in the concrete overhead. Alex overpowered him with a glancing strike, sending him sprawling. Caitlin kicked at the second assailant's legs, tripping him. He fell, dropping the briefcase. Alex pulled the first attacker's mask off in one motion, revealing a hardened face in his early 30s. The second attacker scuffled, but two uniformed officers charged in, their tasers primed. The kidnappers were taken down in a flurry of cuffs and shouted commands. Within minutes, the warehouse was swarming with law enforcement, NYPD tactical officers, crime scene investigators, and Sunrise Technologies security. Caitlin, her clothes torn and face bruised, was helped to her feet. Alex knelt beside her, examining her injuries. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice thick. She touched her cheek. "Bang my head and my ribs ache, but I'll live." He took her arm, guiding her toward a waiting paramedic. "You saved the files, right?" he asked. She nodded, pointing to the briefcase in an officer's hands. "It's still sealed, uncharted. Everything's intact." He exhaled, relief flooding his features. "Let's get you to a hospital, just to be sure." At Bellevue Hospital, Caitlin was examined for concussion, broken bones, and internal injuries. Alex sat in the waiting area for nearly an hour. Finally, a nurse approached. "Ms. Harper?"
Dr.
"Gwyn will see you now." Alex rose. "I'm her colleague," he said to the nurse. "She's stable, just a mild concussion and bruising. She can go home after a few hours of observation." Alex's tension eased. He entered the room to find Caitlin reclining on a hospital bed, for in hand, her laptop bag secured in a locker by the door. Her hair was tied back. A small bandage adorned her temple. He offered a wet cloth. "You're a mess." She offered a weak smile. "I'm alive. That's what matters." He sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm so sorry this happened." She reached out, holding his hand. "Thank you for coming so fast." He turned her hand over, thumb brushing her knuckles. "I told you I'd find you." She exhaled. "You did."
Then,
with more force than she had expected, she added, "I trust you." He leaned close, his voice hushed. "Always." The next morning, sunrise bathed Manhattan in gold. Caitlin and Alex met at a quiet cafe near the hospital. Caitlin sipped herbal tea. Alex nursed an espresso. He laid 2 sealed manila envelopes on the table. "Everything we recovered," he said. "From the briefcase and my laptop backup, digital copies, organized by exhibit. Legal counsel will have it all by noon." She eyed the envelopes. "I'll start rebuilding my analysis. Then we'll finalize the SEC submission." He nodded. "But first, rest. Take today off. I'll handle the next round of interviews." She smiled, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Okay." They sat in silence for a moment, watching city dwellers rush to morning trains. The trauma of last night still thrummed beneath their skin, but so did triumph. Caitlin had survived a kidnapping. Alex had rescued her, and the evidence to dismantle the conspiracy remained intact. Their partnership, born of equal parts fate and determination, had been tested in the darkest hour. Now, at dawn, they faced the day's challenges side by side, sworn to bring justice for Harper Enterprises and anyone who sought truth over deception. The hush in the federal courtroom was almost tangible by the time Caitlin Harper stepped up to testify. Across the aisle sat Special Agent Elena Ortiz of the FBI's Financial Crimes Task Force, clipboard in hand, and to her right, Alex Price, his expression taut with anticipation. Outside, news vans lined the curb. Inside, every seat in the gallery was filled with reporters, investors, and former Harper Enterprises employees. The stakes could not have been higher. After months of dogged investigation, the grand jury was ready to hear the most damning evidence against Gregory Price and Claire Monroe. Judge Reynolds, presiding, called the court to order. In his crisp robes, he surveyed the gallery. This hearing will resume the grand jury's inquiry into the alleged securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering schemes orchestrated by Gregory Price and Claire Monroe. "Ms. Harper, you may proceed." Caitlin swallowed and rose, her voice steady. "Thank you, Your Honor." She began by explaining her role as a data analyst at Sunrise Technologies, how she'd uncovered the backdated entries in Harper's ledgers, and how those entries corresponded to a $20 million collateral swap that bypassed proper board approval. She described in detail how she had cross-referenced Charles, CFO Walter Martin's, July 22 complaint, Exhibit D, with the trustee minutes she'd obtained at Speculus. As she spoke, snippets of her key documents were projected behind her on a large screen. The email metadata linking Martin directly to Gregory Price, the trustee agenda noting alternative liquidity mechanisms, and the shell company payments to Stonebridge Capital. Her testimony shifted focus to Claire Monroe's involvement. How emails recovered from internal backups demonstrated Monroe lobbying to ensure press releases downplayed Harper's liquidity concerns. How bank records revealed identical payment instructions signed by an authorized Monroe delegate, and how customer billing systems were manipulated to redirect interest income into offshore accounts. Each fact, Caitlin explained, was tied to a discrete exhibit. Exhibit C for Stonebridge payments, Exhibit E for Monroe's signatory trail, and Exhibit F for the public filing discrepancies. The first challenge came during cross-examination by Gregory Price's lead defense counsel, Harold Lyman. He pounded the lectern, demanding, "Ms. Harper, how do you know these aren't mere coincidences of timing? You've created charts, but what reliable witness can place my client at the scene of these fraudulent entries?"
Caitlin met Lyman's case unflinchingly.
"I have the login records from the Harper Enterprises legacy server," she said. On October 9, 2008, a user ID tied exclusively to G. Price at Price Family. Com uploaded the collateral swap file. The same hashed file name appears in the board's internal minutes, but backdated to October 14th. That's incontrovertible. She handed Lyman a printout, Exhibit B, with highlighted IP address mappings. The judge intervened to admonish Lyman for repeatedly badgering a witness protected by insider data protocols, and Lyman grudgingly retreated. Next came Claire Monroe's defense, led by Dana Rowe, who focused on prosecutorial motives. "Ms. Harper," Rowe began, adopting a sympathetic tone, "you were romantically involved with Mr. Price, correct?" Caitlin's cheeks flushed, but she nodded. "And you have every reason to, shall we say, skew the evidence in his favor?" The implication hung heavy. But Caitlin answered truthfully, "I began working with Mr. Price only after discovering the anomalies. My sole motivation was uncovering the truth for my late father's reputation. That father's whistleblower complaint had led to Harper's downfall, and Caitlin's tears were real." The jury observed in silence. After 2 days of testimony from forensic accountants, transaction monitoring specialists, and trustee archivists, the prosecution called Gregory Price to the stand. A hush fell as he, now weathered and gray, took the oath. U.S. Attorney Marina Chun unveiled a photograph of Price's Palm Beach villa, linked via GPS to wire transfer authorization logs. Price grew pale. Under sustained questioning, he finally admitted authorizing a collateral swap, but claimed he did so on the board's behalf, with implicit approval. The prosecution countered with board minutes, Exhibit A, showing no such approval. On his own counsel's advice, Price invoked his Fifth Amendment right, refusing further answers. Claire Monroe's turn came next. In a sharply tailored suit, she entered calm but tense. Asked whether she knowingly facilitated money transfers to Stonebridge, she took the stand. "I managed marketing communications," she testified. "My role had nothing to do with accounting or finance." But the prosecution countered. Internal emails, Exhibit G, from Monroe's own inbox recommended phrasing for press releases to downplay liquidity risks. Under pressure, Monroe confessed to drafting those releases, but insisted she believed Price's assertions about asset quality and was never briefed on the shell company transactions. The prosecution, however, produced direct email threads, including Claire's signature at the bottom of vendor payment memos. Monroe's composure cracked. She burst into tears, then regained her mask of professionalism. After each cross-examination, the FBI agents in the gallery exchanged satisfied nods. Ortiz whispered to Alex, "Your exhibits held up. They're going down." In closing arguments, U.S. Attorney Chen's voice rang out. This was not an accident of market conditions, but a deliberate, coordinated campaign of deception. Investors were defrauded, employees were misled, and MS. Harper's father was silenced. The evidence is clear. Gregory Price and Claire Monroe manipulated ledgers, diverted funds, and obstructed justice. We ask for convictions on all counts. Lyman and Rowe countered by contesting the severity of the penalties, citing their clients' community contributions, and painting the economic meltdown as a broader crisis. But the jury remained impassive. After 3 days of jury deliberations, the foreperson announced the verdict. The gallery rose as the stain-resistant jury box doors swung open. "All rise," the judge intoned. On the foreperson's return, the clerk asked, "How does the jury find the defendant, Gregory Price, on count 1, conspiracy to commit securities fraud?" "Guilty," came the clear reply. One by one, counts were read aloud. Wire fraud, guilty. Money laundering, guilty. Obstruction of justice, guilty. Astounded gasps echoed in the room as Gregory Price, softly trembling, was escorted away. Claire Monroe's counts followed immediately. Guilty on conspiracy, guilty on wire fraud, guilty on aiding and abetting money laundering, guilty on obstructing justice. Monroe stared straight ahead, the weight of her decisions finally breaking through. In the sentencing hearing weeks later, Judge Reynolds delivered stern judgments. For Gregory Price, 30 years in federal prison, $150 million in restitution, and a lifetime ban from corporate boards. For Claire Monroe, 20 years, $75 million restitution, and professional disbarment from financial services. Each sentence was justified by the magnitude of their crimes and the systemic deception that had reverberated across thousands of investors' lives. Outside the courthouse, Caitlin and Alex stood shoulder to shoulder as a crowd of reporters clamored. Alex wrapped an arm around her. "It's over," he whispered. She exhaled, tears of relief glistening. "Finally, my father can rest." Alex pulled her close. "You did it." Spring's first warmth lingered in the air as Caitlin Harper unlocked the door of her dream, Brooklyn-bound cafe and books, nestled on a tree-lined block in Williamsburg. The cafe's glass facade reflected swaying cherry blossoms outside. Inside, warm wood tones and soft Edison bulbs created a welcoming glow. Stacks of colorful paperbacks, ranging from classic journalism to cutting-edge tech biographies, lined the walls. The rich aroma of freshly ground coffee blended with the faint musk of old books, offering solace and inspiration in equal measure. Behind the counter, Caitlin moved with practiced grace, setting out pastries on mirrored trays and adjusting the espresso machine's steam wand. A line of regulars had already formed, freelance designers tapping laptops at communal tables, young parents sharing cappuccinos between stroller-parked babies, and senior novelists lost in their musings over single-origin pour-overs. Caitlin greeted each by name, her smile genuine and steady. This was no longer merely a business. This was the heart of a community she'd fought to protect, a sanctuary where truth and creativity could thrive. Alex Price arrived shortly before opening, stepping through the cafe doors with a small bouquet of daisies in hand, a nod to his and Caitlin's tradition. They first exchanged flowers on the night of their blind date rescue, a gesture that had become theirs alone. Today's daisies were bright and hopeful, much like the chapter of life they were writing together. Alex deposited the flowers in a cobalt vase by the register, then crossed to Caitlin's side. "Morning," he said, voice warm. "Smells amazing in here." Caitlin offered him a steaming mug. "Rise and grind." She handed him an oat milk latte, foam art swirling into a leaf motif, her signature. "Business runs smoothly?" she asked, leaning close. Alex took a careful sip. "Better than ever." He pulled out his phone to show her. Price and Harper Consulting's dashboard displayed new client onboarding notifications, startups pledging to uphold transparent financial practices, eager to learn from their journey. "We landed 3 new engagements this week alone," he added with pride. "And the SEC just published a feature on our compliance-first methodology." Caitlin nodded, pride sparkling in her eyes. "That's incredible. I'm thinking of hosting a community talk here next month. Data integrity for small businesses. Would you present with me? He smiled. Absolutely. We'll turn this cafe into a think tank. He paused, reaching across the counter to take her hand. I'm proud of everything we've built. The morning rush arrived in earnest. Caitlin and Alex slipped seamlessly between roles, barista and consultant, hostess and mentor. They served a nervous graduate student a matcha latte and offered him a free copy of Whistleblowers. Voices for Change, a book Caitlin had inscribed. They arranged tables for a midday meetup of social impact investors whom Alex would see after hours. Their partnership, forged in crisis, now thrived in collaboration. By early afternoon, a lull settled over the cafe. Caitlin wiped down the counter and stepped outside to the small backyard patio. Alex followed, carrying 2 glasses of iced herbal tea. They settled at a wrought iron table beneath an umbrella striped in navy and cream. I can't believe how far we've come, Caitlin mused. From corporate cubicles and late-night forensics to this. Alex nodded, his gaze soft. Turning personal tragedy into communal good, that's your gift. He handed her his tea. To new beginnings. She clinked her glass to his. To us. She paused, contemplative. Do you ever think about what's next? Beyond the cafe and the firm? He considered. I'd like to start a foundation, something to support investigative journalists and whistleblowers. Seed grants, legal assistance, that sort of thing. Caitlin's eyes lit up. Yes, the Harper Foundation. We can host fundraising events here, in partnership with a cafe and consulting clients. He reached across, squeezing her hand. I love it. Justice, transparency, community, all wrapped into one. A gentle breeze rustled the blossoms above. They sat in contented silence, dreaming aloud of lecture series, mentorship programs, and cross-coffees where entrepreneurs and ethics advocates could meet. Later, as dusk turned the sky pink, Caitlin closed the cafe's front doors. Alex flipped the open sign to closed. They moved through the quiet space, stacking chairs, turning off lights, and straightening books. Caitlin paused by a framed photograph on the wall, a Polaroid of her and Alex dancing at Hillside Bistro on that unforgettable blind date. Nostalgia tinged her smile. Remember this? She whispered. Alex stepped beside her, resting his head against hers. How could I forget? He pressed a gentle kiss atop her head. Every day since has been better. They flicked off the final lights and exited into the evening air. Outside, cafe lanterns glowed in the garden, guiding them down the brick pathway. As they reached the sidewalk, Alex slipped an arm around Caitlin's waist. A block away, the newly established Price and Harper office welcomed them. The glass frontage revealed a minimalist interior, reclaimed wood desks, artful equations on smart glass walls, and a plaque reading, Integrity in Action. They had rented the loft space above the cafe, creating a vertical campus, caffeine below, compliance above. Alex swiped his badge and opened the security door. Caitlin followed. Inside, they crossed the threshold to their shared workspace. Alex tapped a control panel, and the blinds rolled up, revealing the cafe canopy below. Home, he said softly. For us, Caitlin amended, leaning against his shoulder. They wandered among desks littered with legal binders, green potted plants, and whiteboards filled with diagrams of financial workflows. Caitlin pulled down a marker and scrawled on the board, Empower, Educate, Enforce. She stepped back. Alex added beneath it, Fund whistleblowers worldwide. He smiled, proud. As darkness settled, they dimmed the office lights. The cafe's twinkling bulbs drifted through the window, and the offices above retained a gentle glow. It was late, but neither felt tired. They savored the moment, the culmination of perilous discoveries, court battles, and long nights spent parsing data and decoding injustice. Opening the door to their shared apartment above the office, they crossed the threshold into domestic peace. A cozy living room awaited, artfully decorated with framed copies of Harper's original whistleblower pages, a shallow water fountain for quiet meditation, and a pair of armchairs facing a picture window overlooking the cafe's patio. Caitlin collapsed into one chair, Alex perched on the armrest. Wordlessly, they shared a slice of lemon drizzle cake, a celebratory treat from the cafe's stock. Crumbs drifted onto Caitlin's lap as she sipped chamomile tea. "Do you ever get scared?" she asked quietly. Alex set down his cake plate. "Of what?" "Of the risk we took. Of what could have happened in that warehouse." He reached out, brushing a crumb from her chin. "Every day, but every day since, I'm reminded why it mattered, and that I have you beside me." Her chest tightened with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you." He squeezed her hand. "We built something worth risking everything for." He exhaled, looking around their loft. The cafe lights below, the consulting desks down the hall, the foundation plans they were mapping out. "Our future is whatever we choose to make of it." Caitlin smiled through tears. "Then let's choose wisely and bravely." He kissed her hand. "Always." And so, as the city that had tested them settled into its nightly rhythm, Caitlin and Alex embraced the promise of tomorrow. Their cafe would nourish bodies and minds. Their consulting firm would champion corporate integrity. Their foundation would protect truth-tellers everywhere. Together, they forged a legacy from the shadows of deceit, a testament to resilience, partnership, and the transformative power of justice. Under the soft glow of cafe lanterns and office nightlights, they closed the final chapter of one ordeal and opened the first page of an even greater story, a life built on trust, purpose, and shared hope. And that brings us to the end of today's story on Truistery Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.